We have all seen the trope. The suave operative lands in a foreign capital, Moscow, Beijing, or Tehran. They step off the plane and slip seamlessly into the local dialect, navigating complex political landscapes and back-alley deals with the fluency of a native poet. We watch this and think, they must be geniuses. We tell ourselves that these people possess a gift that we simply lack. We convince ourselves that because we failed high school Spanish or gave up on that language app after 2 weeks, our brains just aren't wired for it. But that is a lie. The truth is far more mechanical, far more brutal, and infinitely more replicable. In Monterey, California, sits an institution known as the Defense Language Institute, or DLI, along with the Foreign Service Institute. This is where the United States military and intelligence community manufacture fluency. I use the word manufacture deliberately. They do not rely on talent. They cannot afford to rely on talent. When the stakes are national security, when a mistranslation leads to a diplomatic crisis or a compromised agent, talent is a variable they eliminate. Instead, they use a system, a rigorous, scientifically grounded, and often counterintuitive set of protocols designed to take an 18-year-old from Kansas who has never left the state and turn them into a fluent Pashto or Korean speaker in less than a year. Today, we are going to declassify that methodology. We are going to strip away the Hollywood glamour and look at the cognitive engineering behind rapid language acquisition. We are breaking down the 7 weird protocols that spies use to learn languages, protocols that you can apply today to master any skill. The first protocol contradicts almost everything you were taught in the traditional education system. Think back to your first French or German class. What did you do? You likely opened a textbook. You looked at words. You memorized spelling. The intelligence community views this as a critical error. Protocol number 1 is the First Doctrine. At the DLI, specifically in the early stages of the hardest languages, students are often forbidden from seeing the written script for weeks. Consider how you learned your native language. You did not study flashcards of the alphabet when you were 6 months old. You absorbed the music of the language first. You learned the rhythm, the intonation, and the phonemes, the specific sounds that make up the language. By introducing text too early, especially with languages that use a different alphabet like Arabic or Mandarin, your brain tries to map the new sounds onto your existing native reading rules. This creates a permanent, thick accent and decoding lag. Spies are trained to be auditory beasts first. They spend hundreds of hours just listening and repeating, training the muscles of the mouth to form shapes that don't exist in English. They bypass the visual cortex to build a direct highway between sound and meaning. If you want to learn like an operative, throw away the book for the first month. Listen until the strange sounds begin to separate into distinct words. Protocol number 2 is the engine of reliability. It is called overlearning. In cognitive psychology, overlearning refers to practicing a skill significantly beyond the point of initial mastery. In a civilian language class, if you answer a question correctly, the teacher moves on. Good job, next. In spy training, getting it right is just the starting line. The goal isn't to get it right, the goal is to reach a state where you cannot get it wrong, even under extreme duress. Imagine you are an operative in a hostile environment. You haven't slept in 24 hours. You are stressed, adrenaline is spiking, and someone shouts a command at you in the local dialect. You do not have 2 seconds to mentally translate a grammar table. You need an automatic, visceral response. The DLI achieves this through drilling, endless, repetitive, high-speed repetition of core structures. They push the students until the language moves from explicit memory, where you have to think about it, to implicit memory, where it happens automatically, like tying your shoes or driving a car. To apply this, do not stop practicing a phrase when you know it. Practice it until you can say it while doing math in your head. Practice it until it is boring. That boredom is the feeling of fluency taking root. One of the biggest fears of any language learner is the vastness of vocabulary. There are hundreds of thousands of words. How can you possibly learn them all before you deploy? You can't. This leads us to protocol number 3, the island technique. Operatives and diplomats are often trained to build islands of fluency. These are specific, narrow topics where they memorize the vocabulary, the sentence structures, and the likely questions to a near-native level. Let's say your cover story is that you are an architectural engineer. You don't need to know how to discuss gardening or medieval poetry. You build a massive island of vocabulary around engineering, architecture, and your personal background. When a conversation drifts into unknown waters, the ocean where you struggle, you use transitional phrases to steer the boat back to your island. This creates the illusion of total fluency. It boosts your confidence and allows you to function at a high level within your operational parameters. For you, this means you shouldn't try to learn Spanish. You should learn the Spanish of cooking or the Spanish of marketing or whatever your specific domain is. Conquer the islands first. The bridges will build themselves later. Most people hate grammar. They hate the rules, the exceptions to the rules, and the exceptions to the exceptions. The traditional academic approach is Deductive. Here is the rule. Now apply it. Spy agencies prefer an inductive approach, often called pattern drills, or the audiolingual method on steroids. Instead of analyzing why a verb changes, they simply bombard the learner with the pattern until the brain recognizes the structure mathematically. The student hears and repeats thousands of slight variations. I buy the apple. I buy the bread. He buys the bread. Did he buy the bread? The brain is a pattern-matching machine. By feeding it enough data, it intuitively grasps the grammar without needing the academic explanation. It's the difference between knowing the physics equation for a curveball and actually being able to hit one. Spies learn to hit the curveball. They don't care about the equation. Don't get bogged down in grammar books. Mimic the patterns until they feel right. If it sounds wrong, it is wrong. You have heard of immersion, but Protocol 5 is high-stakes immersion. At the end of their training, or during specific modules, students at these institutes undergo ISO events. They are transported to a mock village that looks, smells, and sounds like the target country. For days, no English is allowed. If you need food, you must negotiate for it in the target language. If you need medical help, you must explain your symptoms in the target language. If you break character, you fail. This introduces an element of cortisol, stress. There is a direct link between emotion, stress, and memory retention. When your brain believes that communication is a matter of survival or high consequence, it supercharges the learning process. It prioritizes that information as critical. You might not be able to simulate a mock village, but you can simulate the stakes. Force yourself into situations where you cannot use English. Change your phone's language. Go to a restaurant where the staff speaks the language and refuse to switch to English even if it's awkward. The awkwardness is the point. The social pressure tricks your brain into learning faster to avoid future embarrassment. Spies are efficient. They do not waste time learning words they will never use. This brings us to Protocol 6, the Pareto Efficiency. Linguists know that in almost any language, the top 1,000 most frequent words account for nearly 85% of all daily conversation. The top 3,000 words get you to about 95%. The remaining hundreds of thousands of words are just the icing on the cake. Intelligence training focuses ruthlessly on high-frequency vocabulary first. They don't learn the word for aardvark or thimble in week 1. They learn government, movement, identify, time, people. They use frequency dictionaries to ensure that every minute of study yields the highest possible return on investment. If you are learning a language, stop using random apps that teach you the boy eats the red apple. Unless you are in the Apple business, this is low-value data. Download a frequency list of the top 2,000 words in your target language. Memorize those and ignore everything else until you are done. That is the fastest path to functional fluency. Protocol number 7 is purely psychological and perhaps the most fascinating. It is the creation of a language alter ego. Research in psycholinguistics shows that many people struggle with a new language because they feel silly. They feel like they are losing their identity, or they sound less intelligent than they really are. This is called the language ego, and it creates a massive inhibition barrier. Spies are professional actors. They are comfortable assuming a cover identity. Language instructors often encourage students to adopt a new persona when they speak the new language. When you speak French, you aren't John from Ohio. You are Jean-Pierre, who is louder, more expressive, and uses his hands more. By detaching the language from your core ego, you lower the affective filter, the anxiety that blocks learning. You stop caring about mistakes because it's not you making them. It's the character. If you want to speak like a spy, you have to be willing to kill your current self for a few hours a day and become someone else. Adopt the mannerisms, the volume, and the attitude of the culture you are studying. Fake it until you become it. Why does this matter? Why do governments pour millions of dollars into these protocols? Because in the world of geopolitics, language is not just a soft skill. It is a weapon system. We are entering a multipolar world. The era of English being the sole language of global power is fracturing. The rise of China, the re-emergence of Russian influence, the economic power of the global South. These dynamics demand leaders and analysts who can understand the nuance of the opposition. A mistranslated phrase can start a war. A cultural misunderstanding can kill a trade deal. The ability to understand the enemy, to think as they think, requires speaking as they speak. As Nelson Mandela famously said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. In the world of espionage, accessing the heart is the ultimate way to extract the truth. So, what is the no BS takeaway here? It is that fluency is not magic. The CIA, the MOSSAD, the MI6, 6. They do not have a magic pill. What they have is a total rejection of passivity. They embrace discomfort. They prioritize sound over sight. They drill patterns until they are sick of them. They build islands of safety and then simulate high-stakes danger. You don't need a government bunker to do this. You don't need a clearance. You just need to stop treating language learning as a hobby and start treating it as a mission. The brain is a muscle, and like any muscle, it only grows under tension. If your language learning feels easy, if it feels comfortable, you aren't learning. You're just being entertained. Now, I have a mission for you. I want you to choose one of these protocols to implement this week. Maybe you'll download a frequency dictionary. Maybe you'll banish English from your house for 1 hour every evening. Which protocol resonates most with you? Are you brave enough to try the alter ego? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns of how elite performers master their crafts, make sure to like this video and subscribe to The Brain Line. We decode the world so you can conquer it.